Not too long ago, I released a video titled The Truth About the Movie Colors. You all seem to like that video, and you left a ton of good comments about your experiences when the movie Colors came out in 1988. I'm going to read some of your comments and we'll dive a bit deeper into it. The link to my full video, The Truth About Colors, can be found in the description. Now let's get to your comments. Let's see. Fat Snack says, after Colors dropped in St. Louis, literally the next day, shit started to change. You know, I've heard that so much, man. 1988 was a year. 1989 was also a year that just brought gangs all over the country. And this movie had a lot to do with it. When people outside of California, outside of Los Angeles specifically, were watching what was going on in Los Angeles, they were intrigued. The movie Colors was romanticized, and it made banging look fun. It made it look cool, not knowing that it was really going down in the city of Los Angeles at this time. But that's so crazy, man. He said St. Louis changed the next day. They were one of the first to gravitate or to grab on to West Coast culture. That is most definitely. I think Quick even said in his song Just Like Compton, right? One of his first stops was St. Louis. He went there expecting to see cow dookie and horse poop and all that, but he was seeing red and blue. So yeah, shout out to St. Louis. James Broomfield says, I was in the 4th grade when Colors came out. We didn't know shit about gangs till Colors came out. Gangs were just spreading across the West Coast and then throughout the country. Colors actually promoted gang culture throughout the country, in my opinion. Yeah, sadly, looking back in hindsight, obviously I thought it was really cool back when I was 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 watching the movie. But in hindsight, as a grown adult, Colors had a negative effect on the country, nay, the world. I would gather that thousands of people have lost their lives in various cities all over the country because in 1988, someone saw a movie called Colors and they decided to emulate it and they decided to bring it to their city. So I think the movie Colors, just like I think gangster rap, just like I think the dope game, is responsible for taking a lot of people's lives. Freddie Frog says Colors should have had multiple parts like Fast and Furious. I think it would have got corny if there was a Colors Part 2, Colors Part 3. I mean, what are we talking here? You know, Pac-Man gets married in Part 3 and then what has baby Pac-Mans? Like, what are we talking? Miss Pac-Man? Nah, I think it was good. Some things are just meant to be left alone. You know, same with Menace to Society. I think Menace to Society is enough. We don't need Menace to Society 2, where Cousin Harold comes back from the dead and shoots up the guys who shot at Kane. Like, no, we don't need that. Let's just leave things the way they were. Let's see. Sean Frost says, I was a huge Ice-T fan. He turned me on to rap, so I only got interested in the movie because of it and now love it. Ice-T, the song Colors was the perfect song for that movie. Ice-T did a great job. He painted an amazing picture of what was going on in Los Angeles, and not only that, what was going on in this movie. Ronald McDonald 1977 says Bloods didn't get a lot of shine because Cats was sleeping on them and Crips was bigger. Bloods in the 80s was hard as fuck, but the Crips was deep and getting all the press time. Yeah, the Bloods in the back in the day, Parus, they were nothing to be messed with, and they were outnumbered 4-1, 5-1 at times back in the day. So a lot of people said, you know, if you were Paru, you were on the B side, you were a little more tougher. And this isn't taking anything away from the C side, but you had to be a little tougher because you were literally going, you know, your 1 to their 5, because the Bloods and the Parus were not that big back then. So yeah, that's sadly they didn't get a good look in the movie. In the movie Colors, it was more about the Seaside against 21st Street, which was the SA gang. So yeah, that was interesting. Let's see. Frequency 26 says, I'm from LA, but was visiting Phoenix to see my dad when Colors came out. I begged my dad to let me go see it in the movies, and he was like, no. They was shooting up movie theaters way in Arizona when it came out. Dude, that was happening in Arizona too? Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of famous stories of places right here in California. That's why I didn't get to watch it until it came out in video. I watched it in the courtesy of my own home because, you know, my mother would not let me go see this movie, and I begged my stepdad. He wouldn't let me go see it. It was not happening. I was not going to get to see this movie in theater, so I had to wait until it came out in the rental. You kids don't know what I'm talking about, like the Blockbusters, the Bob's videos or whatever. We would have a card, right? And we would go rent a video, and we could only keep it overnight. If we kept it longer, we'd have to pay like $2 a day or something like that. We always had to rewind it. You guys remember Be Kind, Rewind? Huh? Anybody in their 40s remember Be Kind, Rewind? You had to rewind it every time you brought it back. But yeah, I was not able to watch it in the theater also because people were literally losing their lives. Crazy C 2008 says, yes, that was the white dude from Children of the Corn. So in the video, I mentioned that the redhead dude from the SA team 21st Street, the one who was always loaded, I was like, I think that's the guy from Children of the Corn. And yes, I was correct. And thank you for correcting me as well. That was the crazy dude from Children of the Corn. Was it Malachi? Man, Children of the Corn was a creepy ass movie. I gotta go watch Children of the Corn if you like horror movies. Let's see. Louis Lugga 9887 says, I remember buying it on the VHS when I was 15, and me and my friends would watch it. I'm from Chicago, and seeing gang life somewhere else was interesting to us. We would laugh about it. It was fun to watch at the time. Frog was my favorite character. R.I.P. to Frog, man. And in real life, he ended up passing away. I don't want to mess up his name, but he was a good actor. He was on a lot of TV shows and things like that, and he passed away shortly after Colors was made. But yeah, I could see how, to someone not living in Los Angeles, this movie could be funny. Like just seeing Frog dancing with his 2-1-up, and like seeing dude all doped out, and just seeing the multiple characters, seeing Damon Wayans rapping in the back of the van, saying Rocket gonna stop it and no one gonna stop it. This and I got to rock your night like the damn Sherm. I mean, yeah, I could see how someone in Chicago could see this movie as funny. We were watching it knowing that, yeah, this is what's really going down, minus the Hollywood aspect, right? There's so much Hollywood in that movie as well, and it's, like I said, romanticized, and a lot of members said that it doesn't paint a true representation, but the way it was filmed and just certain scenes, like, it felt like Los Angeles. But I can see how, to someone living in Chicago, where it was going down too, still is going down, how that could seem funny. Gangster Mo 310 says, fun fact, I'm really a black dude in a Mexican gang in real life. 80s baby, 90s raised me. I'm definitely blessed to have beat the odds. Still alive and free, living my best life today. Shout out to Gangsta Mo, man. And in the other video, in my original video, I mentioned that when I was younger, I was a dumb kid, obviously. You know, I thought this was cool, but I wanted to be the black guys in the Mexican gang. And that was only because I was living around a lot of Hispanics, you know, and I don't know, I thought Sylvester Looney Tunes was cool, and then they had the other black dude in 21st Street. So I kind of wanted to, you know, as a kid, I was like, oh, I want to be the black dude in the Mexican gang. But Gangsta Mo says he was that black dude in the Mexican gang. I definitely got to contact Gangsta Mo. I'd love to talk with him about his experience. Groove says, 21st and Elm, you was over there by the 20s and the Insanes, homie. Shout out to the Insanes. Yes, I was. I was living on 21st and Elm, 326 East 21st Street. And I got a chance to converse with this gentleman in the chat, and apparently he lived right down the street from me, and he knew some people that I knew. So I think that's really cool. Yep, I grew up on I lived on 21st and Elm for a large majority of my life as a youngster, and that was the home of the Insanes, and not too far was the 20s. And I remember it was popping. I was there in the 80s and going into into 1990, and I just remember it was popping. I remember seeing blue everywhere. I remember seeing graffiti everywhere. It's a different town now. It's different now. I mean, it's still popping where I was living. Do not get me wrong. It is still popping, but it just seemed like it was way more turned up back in the 80s. Charles QX And I'm puffing a little J while I'm doing this, man. I'm reading your comments, puffing a little J. Comment down below if you're puffing something. I am puffing on. What am I puffing on? Oh, this is some truffle. Truffle is one of my favorite strains. Comment down below. What are you puffing on? All right. See, Charles says, I'm from the East Coast. I saw the movie at the theater and didn't realize there was a huge gang problem in Los Angeles. We thought they was living like Breaking, Turbo and Ozone. Ice-T and King T was out. However, we didn't hear NWA until 89. So we was just learning about C's and B's. Funny shit, a couple of months after the movie came out, we had 2 blood sets from Inglewood moved to our town in my hood and almost got the whole hood to wear red. Almost 25 years later, others showed up and now there's B's and C sets in my hometown in Pennsylvania. There you go. They were trying to bring, he says right away there were red teams popping up in his city claiming Inglewood sets. How funny is that? That is too funny, dude. And he said he thought we were out here living like Turbo and Ozone. Yeah, it was not like Turbo and Ozone. There was sections, or there was a certain genre of folks that were dressing like Turbo and Ozone. But I can assure you that LA was more along the lines of what Colors was back then than Turbo and Ozone in Breaking. How funny is that, man? He said they thought we were living like Turbo and Ozone. And that's the perception that a lot of people had about Los Angeles back in the 80s, even during 84, during the Olympics and things like that. You know, there was a time where the world saw LA as palm trees and bad blonde bitches, you know, and yeah, not the case, man. Well, that was the case in certain areas, but it was still going down in Los Angeles. Let's see. 17 Deep 7 Savage says the Batarang was literally just a tank with a square block on the end of where the cannon would be. And along with it was an entire SWAT team. It was wild as F. Yeah, I talked about the Batarang. Toddy T made a popular song called the Batarang, and it was a big old tank that they would bust into crack houses with. You know, these crack dealers, they were getting very elaborate, and they knew how to flush stuff down the toilet before the cops could come in and things like that. So, you know, the cops had to think, okay, what can we do? So they built this big old tank, and they would bust through the side of the crack house and tear shit up and just hop out and wreck shop. But that Batarang thing ended up going away pretty quickly because sometime the cops would run into the wrong house and some people lost their life, unfortunately. Let's see. God Science 78621 says Colors did the opposite for me. First, being from Brooklyn, I was scared as hell to go to Los Angeles. The movie didn't break down why blue was against red and where it all started. I didn't understand the gang culture until I met a real Crip from Compton when I moved to Miami in 2007. How ironic is that, huh? Then, of course, street gangs, Alex, and brothers like Kev Mack. Shout out to Alex Alonso and Kev Mack. They are the originators, man. How can I forget? I always love to read. And a friend of mine's had Monster Cody's book. That book, I was like, yeah, I am not going to Cali. But by then, it started spreading. Yes. I have family. I have friends in other parts of the country. And there were times where they were telling me, dude, is it really going down like that in California? Like, what the heck is going on, man? Like, can you? And you know what? Because when they see the news, all they see, and they used to call us the Southland. I remember that was they would say the Southland. It just sounded like LA was just this one big gang territory, well, which it is. But if you think about it, you're sitting in Iowa, and the only news you hear from Los Angeles is these people in LA popping each other over someone wearing blue or someone wearing red. So I could see how the rest of the country could think, man, I am not going to LA. I mean, that's what I was thinking about Chicago, you know, until I visited Chicago a couple years ago, until I actually did my research and sat down and had common sense. And I was like, yeah, most of Chicago is not like that. Chicago, and 99% of Chicago is a very beautiful place. It's that 1%, unfortunately, of where shit is going down. And that's the place that I stayed away from when I was in Chicago, and I had a great time. Cisco Goldmill says, what Colors did for the younger kids in the early 80s that were exposed to it, the same happened to my 10-year-old, but once Menace to Society came out, Every one of the homies up in the elementary thought they were O-Dog. Y'all want a cheeseburger? We walked around saying that all day. Menace to Society was another one. Groundbreaking movie. And shit, Menace to Society came out, and the next day, everybody had braids like O-Dog. It was really, really funny in that sense. And something that's not so funny is O-Dog ended up teaching a generation of people not how to shoot a weapon properly. So, you know, when O-Dog came out at the end and he has his thing sideways and he's busting at the guys who are busting at him and Kane and Sharif and all them, and he's holding his thing sideways, which you're not supposed to hold it because, you know, bullets and things go way in other directions and stuff like that. But yeah, he taught a generation that it's cool to hold your thing sideways, and unfortunately that's why a lot of innocent people were hit. Let's see. Q the Goat says, I remember all that in Long Beach. My mom was actually affiliated with the Crips. I always had to wear blue going to school. Used to have to get on the floor and down in the tub a lot. Those were some wild times, I swear. Man, if you didn't grow up in the 80s and 90s, like, look, you guys think things are bad now. Trust me, it's getting back to where it was bad. Like, but it's nothing like the 80s and 90s. Nothing. Yes, it's bad. Don't get me wrong. It's really rough out there. It's bad. Dog. 80s and 90s, especially in Los Angeles County, it was a legit war zone. It was a legit war zone. You went to sleep with gunshots. You woke up to gunshots. Gunshots were your alarm clock. You know what I'm saying? And it was unfortunate, man. I mean, it was nothing to walk down the street, hit a corner, and just see a bunch of people in all blue hanging on the corner. 30, 40, 50 people hanging in all blue, drinking 40 ounces, smoking Sherm. Like, it was nothing. Now, due to gang injunctions and things like that, people, you know, more than 2 or 3 people aren't allowed to hang out and stuff. But, you know, man, back then it was nothing to hit a corner and just see 40, 50 people. And then you go to another corner 3 blocks down and it's a totally different set that's beefing with that set that's just 2 blocks away. It was really bad, man. And I'm if you survived the 80s and the 90s, even as a civilian, you're a special person. Let's see. Shout out to Leak. I'm going to have Leak on my show very soon. He says, us on Banging on Wax redeemed the Bloods, made us look strong. And back then, we were outnumbered and still stood strong against all odds. Shout out to Leak. He was an original provider to Banging on Wax, and he's going to be on my show soon, very, very soon. And he was on the B team, and he said, them on Banging on Wax, they redeemed the B side because, hey, like people have mentioned before, colors made the B team look weak. Let's see. Hassan Burns says, R.I.P. Dennis Hopper. That movie came out when I was 12 years old. I seen the extended version, director's cut, the whole 9. You're right, man. I've seen all of those. I know the movie by heart. I jerked off to the scene of Maria Conchita when Sean Penn was banging her. I was looking at Maria Conchita, all right? Wasn't looking at Sean Penn. But hey, back then we didn't have our phones with all this material that you guys have. We didn't have that, yo. So we had to have our jolly somewhere else. So yes, I did jerk off to Maria Conchita a couple times. Anyway, let's keep on moving. Charles QX says the main thing is the real G's didn't like one gang killing another and protested the movie with unnecessary violence. The main thing is the real G's didn't like one gang killing another. Oh, no. All right. Yeah, Vlad says, I remember dangerous and fun times. That is true. It was dangerous and fun. Let's see. Leland Glover says, I knew about C's and B's when I would spend the summer in LA in the early 80s on East 105th, Stanford. My relative put me on to the hood. It was a crazy time, man. Let's see. User, somebody says, my cousin and I went to go see it. And when it came out, Central California, country hillbilly town, we went in as skateboarders and came out as gang members, literally. And all the little towns all around turned into gangland. Damn, Central California, man. He said he walked into the movie, a skateboarder. He walked out, a gangster. And so did all the towns around him, man. Those stories are for sure all around the country. Let's see. Hey, bro, I had this, Long Beach, a place, brother. Let's see. Soul Heaven says, Long Beach, a place a brother rarely ever went. All Crips, Feds, and Longos. I grew up hanging around Harvard Park brims. I mean, yeah, Long Beach is a blue town. still is for the most part to this day at my last checking. Let's see. Kev Mitchell says, it is so funny hearing the stories around the country. I was 20 when this movie came out and lived not that far from LA. And the movie came out and people went to see it and said, just another movie. No big deal. The Ice-T is a banger, though. I really had no idea about the film Color's impact on the entire country. I always thought NWA was the game changer. NWA and Colors are just as responsible for spreading. I would definitely say that. Let's see. Terrence Murrow says, I knew of someone selling syrup in the 80s here in Dago. So he's saying that because in the original movie that is in the description, if you want to check out the link to the original movie that I'm discussing, it's in the description. The Truth About Colors, one of the videos I released a few weeks ago that's really popular and just got a lot of love. But the movie Colors originally was supposed to take place in Chicago. Yes, that's right. It was not supposed to take place in Los Angeles. It was supposed to take place in Chicago. And it was going to be a movie about the cough syrup epidemic. Apparently in the 80s, and you kids think syrup is something that Lil Wayne invented. No. Cough syrup has been around as a form of relaxation and things like that for a very long time. And apparently Chicago had a big problem with the cough syrup epidemic. And the movie Colors was specifically going to be in Chicago. How interesting is that? It was literally supposed to be in Chicago. But it ended up being in LA because, before the movie was greenlit, or while it was greenlit, everyone was talking about this crazy situation that's going on in Los Angeles where people are literally taking each other's lives over the color of a t-shirt. So they moved the movie over to Los Angeles, and all is history. All right, let's see. Frequency says Banging on Wax had an equal or more effect than Colors. But my partner in St. Louis called me and said when Colors came out the very next day, literally, he said everybody was Bloods. There's another one, St. Louis, man. They was they was banging. He said everybody was a part of the B team after that movie came out. Let's see. CRlPS says we had it in San Antonio, but it went crazy after the movie. Yes, San Antonio was one of the first, and San Antonio probably got it more towards the dope game. The C's and B's went there more for dope. And then I'm sure as that movie came out, as my man said, San Antonio, it went crazy after that movie came out. All right, let's see. Ari Tonali's 43 says, at that time, it was insane in 20 Crips, but mainly insane. Although I stayed on 23rd and Olive, I was always over there playing at the homie's house. I'm sure I can name some names. I'm sure you know how the fire department that was on Pasadena would not go. Oh, yes, I remember that. There was a fire station right there on Pasadena. He's talking about me when I was living in Long Beach at the time. Sorry, guys, it's personal. But he said they would not go to any of the surrounding blocks without police escort. Firefighters would not, and ambulance workers would not come to certain areas, my block being one of them, without a police escort. Isn't that nuts? That's how it was in the 80s. Once again, you kids think you have it bad now, and it is getting bad, but it ain't nothing like the 80s. All right, let's see. Ronald McDonald says J-Bone was from 8-9 East Coast. Yeah, J-Bone was apparently in the van with Rocket and Damon Wayans, the opening scene, the hey blood, so yeah, J-Bone was apparently a real one. Let's see. Hub City BG says, I went to the movies when this came out. I was 5 years old. Oh, your dad or mom was very brave to take you there. Aaron Jew says, what's up? Grew up on Walnut and Anaheim Street in the late 80s and 90s. Shout out to Long Beach, man. Getting a lot of love. OG Hindu says, I'm in Kansas City and I've been hearing Cuz and Blood before Colors came out since 85, 86. Yeah, a lot of the West Coast, because Missouri is a hop, skip, and a jump from California, so a lot of the West Coast towns, Midwest towns, they were the first to definitely get hit. Let's see. A fun King of Words says, a fun fact, Colors was supposed to be a Chicago lean movie. Yes, I just brought that up. You're right. He also says, well, did you know New Jack City movie made by Barry Michael Cooper was supposed to be based on Detroit's brothers, the Chambers brothers. And before the storyline location was supposed to be in Detroit, not New York City, Nino Brown was based on Larry Chambers, the sinister older brother that ran the organization. So the next time you watch New Jack City, now you know it's based on the Chambers brothers. Yes, I do remember that. I do remember reading that somewhere. Let's see. Barry Miller says, where are you from? I'm from my mom's vagina, dog. Let's see. Which is our this movie and Bangin' in Little Rock made gangs worse? Yes. Bangin' in Little Rock. You guys know Bangin' in Little Rock, right? Bangin' in Little Rock that was one that was very interesting, man. I have an interview with someone who is tied in, two people actually who are tied in with that movie. So type in Dusty Vision Bangin' in Little Rock and I'm sure you will find it. But Bangin' in Little Rock was another one, man, that I watched. That's one that surprised me living in Los Angeles. 93, 94, I'm watching this movie about these dudes banging in Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm like, Little Rock, Arkansas? What the heck? I had no idea. It blew my mind. Probably the way Colors blew a lot of other people's minds. But yes, dude, I just, it was trippy watching these kids stack and talk about things that were happening in my city. Bangin' in Little Rock is a good one. If you haven't seen that, I would highly recommend you check that out. Let's see. Madam Pocket says, I grew up on Colors too. LOL, I'm from the Bay Area, but I swear I was a Crip in my last life. Nice. That's hilarious. Yeah, Bay Area, man. Crazy. Sharon, PCP is like embalming fluid. Yeah, man. They were hitting that Sherm. Ugh. They were hitting that Sherm in the back of that van, and Sherm was really big. Just before crack hit, Sherm was huge. Let's see. Chicago would also have been a badass place for a gang movie. The Vice Lords and GDs and P-Stones and Latin Kings. That would have been cool. So I could that would have been interesting. So going back to the person saying there should have been a Colors 1, Colors 2, Colors 3, Colors 4. Maybe if they were filmed in different cities, that would be cool. Because Colors 2 could have been filmed in Chicago and told the story of the Vice Lords versus the GD. Yeah, I think that would have been cool. I think that would have been cool. Let's see. The movie was some BS, making the Damus look like some busters when anybody who was living in LA during the 80s and 90s knows better. Well, yeah, we definitely talked about that. Colors by Ice-T, bar for bar, lyrically, and that beat is the hardest gangster song in history of all time. I definitely think it's one of my favorite gangster songs of all time. I know it by heart, and I just think it's awesome. Yeah, it's a great movie, and I really enjoy it. Even to this day, if it comes on TV, I'll watch it. But anyway, I'm gonna get the heck out of here. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll be doing a lot more of this. If I see there are videos that get a lot of traffic, videos that you guys comment on a lot more, then I'll read some of your comments and just talk with you about it. But thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. Please hit that subscribe button as well if this is your first time joining the channel and you like what you hear. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.